We
So
are live.
We are live.
Here we go. Right. Welcome along to another Thursday night chat. As you can see, I've got the neons on. That's what they are.
Nice.
Got the infrareds on. Today's to this evening's guest. Welcome along. I think popping a first cherry for Thomas Dunn, Avocado Swindon. First
Indeed.
time on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Very professional. Nice to see you here. So Thomas and Ben kicked off a couple of weeks ago now in Swindon, already got the first couple of listings under their belt. So we're looking forward to hearing from them. It's a new aspect that you'll get from slightly further afield to tell you how the market's going. Regular panelist Sanjay of Sanjay and Ellen and Sanjay, I should say, in Bracknell.
Oh,
and
don't
then,
tell Ellen that, jeez.
I hope she's not listening. And then Lee, a long-term partner down in the Surrey Hills. So again, thanks for joining us. As you can see in the title, I just don't know if it's a bit of a clickbaity title, but how does immigration affect the selling and renting of your property? I've come up with this title this week. I'm not going to go all Tommy Robinson on everyone. Don't worry before we start. I've got a stat for people to have a conversation about, which is the first stat is I've let 6 properties so far this month, which I'm quite pleased with. My little one-man machine. 3 of them have been to South African families leaving South Africa, coming to the UK for a better standard of living, security and happiness for their families. So 50% of my tenancies this month are all coming from the same country for the same reason. And it could have been higher. It could have been 4 of the 6, but all of them family houses, all of them high income, all of them highly qualified people, one in banking, 2 in IT security. We had a similar situation last year with families and people coming from Hong Kong when Boris Johnson opened up the visas for people from Hong Kong, where Google tells me Hong Kongers is the actual plural for people from Hong Kong. Pop it on the chat if you disagree or if you actually know what the plural is, because I'm not convinced that was correct. But guys, I'm obviously working on the rental side, and 3 out of my last 6 being South African families or people coming from South Africa. It's a pretty high hit rate. That's affecting the lettings market. It's pushing up prices because we're getting people coming into the UK who are, as I said, highly qualified, highly paid, good quality tenants, and in desperate need of accommodation fast. How does that affect house sales? How is it going to affect your local economies if that continues? And what are you seeing where you are? Because we're beautifully spread. We've got Berkshire, Surrey, Wiltshire as well. Sanjay, you're in my area. What are you seeing at the moment from an incoming buyer's point of view?
So I think, and this is actually really factual. Every single 2 and 3 bedroom house we launch, every single time we launch one of those, we have at least one buyer who is from Hong Kong, or Hong Kongers, as you want to say.
Apparently.
Yeah. That are, and actually, Ellen, I was speaking to Ellen earlier. We had a viewing at one of our coach houses today. It's a 2-bedroom coach house attached. And the buyer, and this is really, really interesting because I haven't seen this before, or actually in a long, long time. They brought a spreadsheet of all the homes they're visiting, all the service charges, all the details about how much it is, any ground rent, parking situation, how many spaces there are, a spreadsheet. Like, I don't see many buyers do that. Let's be honest.
It's organised.
And Ellen said they were the best buyer out of the bunch she showed around at that home. And a couple of weeks ago, we had an open house. We had 15 viewings around there, and the buyer was from Hong Kong. So it's almost like, do you know what? It's definitely impacting it, and they're definitely out there. And fair play to them. And and usually they're cash buyers too.
How does it affect the local market?
Well, they paid 15 grand over asking price in order to secure the home. So it's helping obviously push up the prices, especially the average in that road that we had as well. So yeah, crazy, but great at the same time.
Okay, here's a mortgage broker, our mortgage broker, Akil Mayer, just on the chat there. Akil's, I believe, been out in Dubai for the last 2 weeks looking at investment business to bring mortgage business into the UK. So a very, very good aspect of what we're talking about. No wonder he's tuned in. Good to see the UK still a magnet for overseas investors and renters. I guess sterling tanking versus the US dollar and helping alongside Hong Kong visa opening. Good point. Sterling being cheaper for people coming from the outside makes it easier to buy a property, makes it cheaper to buy a property. And as you quite rightly say, Sanjay, someone from Hong Kong buying a property or renting a property in the Bracknell area specifically, it's similar to somebody buying a property in Bracknell who's from the city of London, the absolute dead centre of London. So paying another £10,000 on top of an apartment price is not an awful lot in the grand scheme of things. And I've seen that in rentals. I've seen people quite happily paying £250 over the asking price to rent a property for a year because it gives them guarantees that they're going to have a property to move into pretty much when they land, rather than hitting an Airbnb for a month, which is going to cost them £3,000 or £4,000. They're actually going to save money over the long term by overpaying. Lee, how are you finding it in the well-heeled area of Surrey?
Yeah, I mean, probably not so much so far this year, but certainly last year I had a number of buyers. Again, Hong Kongers, overseas buyers coming from Hong Kong, and what they were doing is trying to get property now and then renting it out for a couple of years in readiness for when they come over, in a couple of years' time. And again, similar to what Sanjay was saying there is they don't, in terms of price, it wasn't really an issue. They had cash. It was just literally a case of, does that property meet my criteria? Is it where I want it to be? Is it within budget yet? Right, bang, let's just do the deal. And there was no questions asked. It was no messing about. They're all very, very good buyers, straight down the line. Solicitors instructed. You knew exactly what you were getting with them. And yeah, in terms of buy, you couldn't really ask for much more, to be honest. So yeah, it's so I haven't seen it as much this year so far. But yeah, we're only what 2 weeks into February, so still very early days. But
yeah, absolutely. I'm highlighting a trend from a rental perspective, and quite often you'll get the rentals first, and then the buyers will come in maybe 6 months' time. And I think we're going to see a steady stream of people who are selling their assets in South Africa in order to reinvest and make a long-term life in the UK. So I think whilst the doom and gloom mongers on the news websites will have you think that the world's going to end and the UK is the worst place in the world and blah, 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 let me tell you, people move into the UK in droves because it is a fantastic place to live. Let's talk Swindon, Thomas. Last but not least, what's happening down in Swindon? I know the money comes from the east in Swindon quite often, doesn't it? It comes from Berkshire, coming down into a cheaper area.
Certainly does. It does. They come down 25, 30 minutes from the M4, but it's always been here. Since I've been sort of working in Swindon, the demographic is that of overseas. It's just the nature of it. So I wouldn't even say in the last year. I would say in the last 10 years, massive amounts of investment that have come in from overseas buyers and renters because of the hospital, because of the nationwide. You've got the really, really big corporates that are there that need to put the businessmen, the clients in there as soon as possible on 3-month temps. Honda used to do it quite a lot. They quite traditionally had 3-month temp jobs that they would come in, move them on someone else, and so on and so on and so on. So I'd say over the last 10 years, it's been massive, and it's been really, really good for Swindon. It's in a town that's probably struggled in the last maybe 20, 30 years. You kind of talk about Swindon as a bit of a, you go anywhere in the UK and you say you're from Swindon, people go, "Oh, it's not the nicest of places to live," but it's had a lot of money spent in the last couple of decades. It needed it.
Yeah, there's plenty of towns which needed investment, and it's whether or not it gets spent, isn't it? I think a lot of the time we're covering Bracknell, which has had something in the region of £500 million put into the town centre, and it massively reflects in the quality of living, the house prices, and the type of person that wants to be here now. And that's a big difference. There's a real want to be here, I think, in Bracknell compared to when I were a lad. So that's my point of view on immigration. We're seeing waves. We're seeing it because of political. We're seeing it because of economic and financial. But we're seeing really positive ones, not just the negative news media that you'll see of people moving across for the right or the wrong reasons. People are genuinely moving into the UK, into the southeast, paying high rents, paying high prices for property in order to secure their families. So if you're a seller out there, it's an option. And Ellen makes a great point here, is if you are marketing your property, you look at who the buyers of people that they're showing around, because it is reported a lot of people get disregarded because either they don't know an area or because they're not from the country. That's a really, really sad statement, frankly, because some of your best buyers will come from overseas, as long as they're thoroughly financially checked through really rigorous anti-money laundering policies. So that's a big thing, and it's a good point to be made. Is if you're renting or you're selling a property, if you're not seeing South African or buyers from Hong Kong, you need to ask your agent, well, what are you doing with your marketing? Because you need to be spreading it out wider. You need to be getting videos for those people who are immigrating into the country, because it's a big topic at the moment within agency about new buyers. Everyone's saying there's not enough buyers around. Everyone's saying it's quiet, but you just have to look for a different kind of demographic who are doing it. So, Lee, it's the second week of February, as you said. So we're starting to notice trends in your market. Where are you at in Surrey? What does the estate agency world need? What are the wants, and how can you help them?
Oh, I think the village is starting to wake up now, which is good. You know, there's certainly a lot more activity out there. It takes a little bit longer to wake up over here in comparison to some of the other areas.
It's a bit sleepy, is it, over there?
a little bit at times. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, valuations are good. You know, there's new properties coming to the market. I was just saying to Sanjay earlier on that I've sort of went out to see a really lovely 4-bedroom detached house in Cobham earlier on today, and she's probably a bit like a lot of clients at the moment, sort of sat on the fence as to, you know, wants to move, needs to move, you know, has got desires to move at some point, but not too sure about whether to do it now or wait 6 months, 8 months down the line. And, you know, we see it all the time, don't we? You know, you go out and value lots of property. Certainly this time of year, you know, agents are always out busy valuing properties, and everybody sort of sat on the fence wondering, do I do it now? You know, or do we wait for the spring market, or do we wait for the summer market to arrive? But you know, there's certainly plenty of buyers around, and you know, I think, like I said to this lady earlier on, at this moment in time, with the fact that there's not many property coming to the market, if you want to move and secure, you know, your property for the best price, get it on the market sooner rather than later, because then when that influx comes of property that will be coming onto the market in the next month, 6 weeks, you know, for the summer market, you'll then be at the head of the queue for when those properties come on, and you'll get the pick of what you're looking for. So, but yeah, you know, it's getting busier, which is good. But I just for you know, needs a lot more sort of family homes at the moment. Certainly seeing a lot more. You know, again, we see it all the time. You know, I'm getting a lot of you know, influx of buyers from London, sort of wanting to come out to, you know, to Surrey, to the hills, to still be back, you know, 40 minutes back into London, want a, you know, quieter piece of life, a little bit more countryside around them, but still be be able to sort of nip back into the city whenever they want. So, and they want those nice family homes. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to drum up at the moment.
Sanjay, it's never not busy in RG12 and RG42. That's one thing we can definitely say. But where's the market in Bracknell at the moment? I'll tell you what I'm seeing, and you can piece it together.
Okay.
I'm seeing houses come on the market at prices that I can barely believe. I saw a house come on the market just out of your area, £100,000 more than any house had ever sold in the same road, and the whole house needed £150,000 spending on it.
Wow.
I just
Is that happening everywhere, or am I just seeing weird stuff on Rightmove?
So let's take 100% of the properties in Bracknell that are for sale at the moment. I would say safely 30% of those are on market for sale well over what they should be. And I know this for a fact because I have data, I have tools in my bag that says this is what it launched at, this is when it launched, this is how much it came on for, and it shows you every single reduction and the date it got reduced. There was one I sent, I think, to you guys the other day. It was £150,000. Wait for it. Since November. After the mini budget, or not so mini budget. You tell me. Now, I'll pose a question to you three, actually. Who do you think is at fault there?
The agent.
I would say the agent. I think he's not having the just the balls to say no. This is just not going to happen. Like you've got to be firm with that and say, look, it doesn't matter how you get it on. It's the agent. It's got to go. Absolutely not. We're not advising that in any way, shape, or form.
But who agrees to that? The homeowner. The homeowner has to agree to the agent. Say, yes, okay, you've came in and valued my home for £150,000 more. Are they not doing their own research or due diligence, knowing that that's their biggest asset? You know, I'm not saying it's just the homeowner. Don't get me wrong. Like, obviously, they've got the agency in, they've got the professionals in, they're going to take advice. But at the same time, you're like, well, hold on. Let me do my own research. Surely they would have had 3 valuations, which is the norm. I think we can all agree on that.
Yep.
That's their own due diligence, their own research to sell their biggest asset. If you go and buy a car, do you or do you not go and look at numerous cars, numerous prices, right? You look at the value, and it's just, I think there is definitely parties which play a part. Both parties do play a part. I do agree with you, Thomas, that it is mainly down to the agent, because sometimes they can almost say a lot of things to their client to make them convinced that that's what it's worth. But my God, it frustrates me. I'm not going to rant. I'm not going to rant. I'm not saying anymore.
No, I totally agree with you. I think it's a case where the agent is or should be the professional and should be the person who speaks the sense, because you're not emotionally wrapped up in what you're trying to do. As a homeowner, I have an opinion of what my house is worth. I also have an emotional value of what my house is worth as well. So I know what I spent on this, and I know what we've done with that, and blah, 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 which doesn't matter to the next person, but it matters massively to me. But I employ a professional on the basis that they're going to advise me and tell me when I'm wrong and advise me to do something differently. So, yeah, I totally agree. Both parties are culpable. And I think it does baffle me sometimes that people will do very little research or very little of their own diligence when they go to list their own property to sell.
That's the thing, isn't it? There's so many, tools that general public have at their disposal to, look at house price trends. You can go on Zoopla, you can go on Rightmove. There are plenty of websites out there and tools that, Joe Public can do their own research before getting, 3 agents out to value the property and actually have an idea in their head. Actually, I'm thinking it's worth about 500,000, and then you get the agent out to confirm what you're thinking and then how they're going to sell it. you know, to get it £150,000 wrong.
Yeah.
It's just.
We're not even talking 3 months though. Has there been a market even 3 months?
It's ridiculous.
Like,
what's it going to be on the market for in another 3 months' time?
And the worst thing is that they keep launching it offers in excess of, and I've seen 2 more exactly the same. One was 100 grand and one was 125 grand reduced over 2 months. Like, unfortunately, it is happening far too much. And I think it's just really an uneducated guess of a sales tactic or a sales pitch, which is completely rubbish in my eyes. But the actual thing I really hate about it is that you're messing with people's lives and you're messing with people's emotions. That's the thing that grains on me as an agent, that you just should not be doing that. And I see it firsthand. We've all seen it firsthand, right?
Yeah.
You know, over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Thomas, out of area, seeing the same patterns or seeing something totally different? Are you seeing listings coming on at the right price and selling fast, or are you seeing listings going on the market and then reduction?
A huge amount of reductions. Certainly in the last sort of, I would say 4 months, Swindon's hit a bit of a decline, and then certainly after Christmas, I think looking at it in the last 5 weeks, there was, out of 800 properties in Swindon, I think 884 to be exact, there were 142 reductions in about 2 weeks. And you're thinking that's quite a lot. That's a huge amount in very short space of time. And it's people just kind of basing off their expectations of what it was doing last year, basing off prices being extremely high, with rates being a lot different. And you're just seeing some silly prices. So I would say this is probably a national thing. People are obviously just going, let's see where we can go with it. And I think that's where an agent needs to kind of really step in and go, do you know what, 100%, you have three valuations, but I think they do. You just need to be a little bit firmer and say, I just strongly disagree with what you're saying. My advice here is to maybe readjust this price. 150 grand is that's a lot of money. Luckily, nothing to my eyes.
There's an entire property in Swindon somewhere, I think.
It used to be, and not too long ago, pre-pandemic, that was a 2-bed house.
Why don't we reverse it though, and put yourself in Mr. and Mrs. Seller's shoes and be like, well, let's give it a go. Let's give it a try. What would you say then?
Yeah. You're seeing sort of pound signs, you're seeing dollar signs, thinking, absolutely, if we could achieve this. But then again, you're putting that trust in that agent to go, are you giving me all the information? Are you showing me the right things to say 100% we can get that? Because if I just came around and said to you as a homeowner, it's worth 650, and you've got absolutely nothing in front of you, and you haven't done your own homework, and you've gone, fair enough, I was thinking maybe 450, 500 grand, 150,000 pounds over. You've gone, all right, we'll try it. But you're thinking that's a big jump. It's alarming. It is very, very alarming.
I think I've got an idea of here's the best questions as a seller you should be asking the estate agent on the valuation. And you can probably add to these questions. But my first question would be, what is the price you would advertise the house that will attract your top 5 or 10 buyers to come and view within a week? And what is the price that would sell my house tomorrow? Those are 2 questions that I would absolutely be asking my agent. Not what can we market at, what can we try, nothing too fluffy like that. And everybody, if you watch this regularly, you'll know I'm not a particularly fluffy person. I'm a bit black and white. But what is the price that will attract 10 buyers to come and view my property? And can that happen?
And I think off the back of that, what is your marketing strategy in order to do that? It's such a rare thing. I never, ever have been to a valuation and they say to me, what is your marketing strategy to back up the price that you've just said my home is worth? I've never had that. And I actually tell homeowners that now. I'm like, look, you need to be asking these questions because it's so damn important. Currency is being seen right now.
Yeah.
That's so much value in that.
Me and Ben have got we've got top 5 questions video that's coming out based on this exactly, because we've been valuation today was a prime example. One of the sort of market leading areas. The agent that's taken this on, it's been on since October. They've had 2 viewings. It's been absolutely appalling. We had a rundown of what that they've sent them and what they were saying on the vow, and there was absolutely no indication whatsoever of a marketing strategy. It was a case of put it on for this figure, we're going to sell it, and it literally just went on Rightmove, and that was that. And you're thinking there is no strategy. The guy that went around the list of the valuers just kind of gone, this is what it should be worth. We're just going to list it. Let's go. There was no strategy involved whatsoever. There was no breakdown of like, okay, this is what we're thinking based on X, Y, Z. Let's just get it on and go.
So here's my follow-up question. If that happens, so if the lister or the manager, whoever you're meeting at your property, says to you, here's what I would put it on for, and I would get it straight on the internet. My follow-up question is, if you're that confident and selling at that price, will you do it with no contract? And when I say no contract, you're still agreeing a fee, you're agreeing a service, but you're not signing in for these unbelievable 6 and 8 month agreements that I see. It's fair to give an agent a period of time to get their marketing strategy done and spend their money on their marketing. But let's be honest with ourselves. If they're going to pitch you a price and they're confident in doing it.
Yeah. This, funny enough, it's funny you mentioned that. This individual signed a 18-week agreement, and you know, that's extreme, even for this area in Swindon, because there's a lot of competition. 18 weeks, I was like, wow, that's incredible.
There's some 24s knocking around our area.
Oh yeah,
that's
plus notice.
And notice,
yeah.
Yeah, notice periods as well. 21 weeks, 28 days.
Lee, any questions that if you were selling your property, you would have written down on your notepad in front of you to make sure you didn't forget to ask?
I think, you know, from a seller's perspective, I think like we've already said, you do your own research. You know, you should know before an agent comes out roughly what your home is worth. And one thing I always say to my clients is put yourself in a buyer's shoes. Have a look at Rightmove, have a look at the portal websites, and you know, put yourself in their shoes in terms of, right, if you had £500,000 to spend in a quarter of a mile radius of your postcode, what can you physically get for your money, and how does that then compare to your property? And if you're seeing properties that are, you know, far bigger, or you know, not quite as superior as your property, then you're answering your own question in terms of price. And you know, like we've said on countless of these chats before, you know, property will always find its true value, irrespective of what you market that property for. All you need is to create that competition between buyers. So you put it on, you know, at a price to sell, and like you said earlier, Mike, in terms of what's that magic number to sell my property within, you know, 48 hours, 7 days, or whatever it might be. But to generate that amount of interest, to get those buyers through the door, let's get an open house through, you know, booked in on a Saturday or Sunday, and let's get 10, 15 quality buyers. 9 times out of 10, you'll get more than what the list price is. You know, you get 2 or 3 people fighting for it, even in any market, irrespective of what's going on in the marketplace. So do your own research, make sure you know what's going on, and so put yourself in the buyer's shoes and see physically what, you know, your money gets you, and you'll be able to get a good idea on what your property's worth.
Absolute truth. Self-reflection is a massive tip. Totally agree with you. If you look on Rightmove within a quarter of a mile of your own house, and you wouldn't buy your house because there's a better one out there, no one else is. I'm afraid it's the absolute truth. I totally agree with that, and it's a great thing to do. So Ellen has stolen Sanjay's joke book for the evening, so I'm gonna indulge her with a knock joke.
Oh God,
who's there, Ellen? Nobel who?
No comment.
Wow.
On that note,
Yeah.
On that bombshell. Good evening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all again next week.
See ya.